Hi, I'm Kristie Clayton, founder and visionary of Herverse. Her is an acronym for Helping Executives Rise. Welcome to ConvHERsations with Kristie, where we dive into real, raw, and inspiring conversations with incredible leaders. You see, at Herverse, we're not just a community, we're a movement, a space where women leaders rise together, support one another, and celebrate our collective success. Whether you're leading as a second in command, steering the vision as the visionary or founder, or driving impact with your company as a leadership team member, Herverse was designed for you. Our mission is to provide resources, coaching, and peer support that you need to grow confidently in your leadership journey. Through memberships like Female Executive Mastermind and the Lead Her community, along with events like workshops and summits, and even personalized coaching, we are here to help women embrace their strengths, overcome challenges, and truly thrive. And that's what ConvHERsations with Kristie is about too. It's a space to share the golden nuggets of wisdom that come from authentic, heartfelt, real conversations. There's no scripts, there's no fluff, just honest insights from leaders who are leading boldly and making an impact. See, I believe leadership isn't something you do alone. It's a journey we navigate, and we don't have to do that alone. We can do it together, because together we rise. Now, let's get started with today's conversation. I am confident you are going to love it. Welcome to this week's edition. I am so incredibly excited to have our guest, Robert Heath Sr. with us. Robert, I know no one can introduce yourself the way that you do, so I'd love to turn it over to you, friend. Who is Robert and what do you do?
Well, first of all, let me say thank you for being here, Kristie. This is, just something that I love, being able to spend time and hang out and talk with you. In our off-air talks, we always enjoy those, and it's always a great time for me. So thank you for the invite. And for all of those out there who are wondering who I am, my name is, Kristie says, Robert Heath Sr. I'm the founder and the CEO of the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group. Really what I do is I help leaders to get the best out of themselves and those that they lead. And the thing that we've really focused on is working with high capacity, high aptitude, high performing leaders to maximize their time and to move from just kind of the success that's driven by accolades and external commentary to the success that's aligned with your purpose, so that it's fulfilling, so that it drives you not just to check boxes, but to make an impact and leave a legacy. And so, we have a bunch of different programs that we take leaders through. We talk about thriving in chaos. We talk about the Harmony Accelerator. We talk about the Legacy Builder Mastermind. And in all those programs, our goal is to really help you to figure out what's your purpose, to align your life with your purpose, and then ultimately to help you live the life that you were born to live.
I love that, Robert. And I love every time I get to hear you explain that. I'm really curious though, being the founder of an organization, I know it starts a lot of times with passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really curious, Robert, why are you so passionate about this? Like, what is it about the work that you do that, made you turn it into a business and want to really, truly help and make an impact with other people?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And for me, I think if I really go back to where it kind of turned, I had an eye-opening moment in my leadership journey. So I was a teacher. I was on my pathway to becoming a superintendent. And originally, right, I'm from South Side of Chicago. I saw different school systems and how education affected people differently. I wanted to change the educational system. And I saw somebody who I thought had all the tools. She had the letters behind her name. She had the plan. She was qualified. She had done it before, all of the things. But one of the things that she was missing that I didn't know at the time was she was missing a leadership component. It was not just that she was in charge. It was not just that she had the title. The thing that she was missing was a leadership component. I figured that out 18 months after she had taken the job, because she was gone. And it was a shock to me. It was blindsiding, but I saw my future in her journey. And I realized that I need to learn more about leadership, more about understanding how to get people from point A to point B, and realizing that there's a difference between being a good manager and being a good leader. And I remember I heard a guy, Hamza Khan, he said this in a TED talk once. He said, "We manage things, we lead people." And that really stuck with me. And I realized also that I wasn't good at leading people. I was really good at managing things. And I literally saw she was good to me. So I obviously had a blind spot. And I went on a leadership sojourn. And during that time, there were a couple of aha moments that I had. One of them was, I used to think that if you were a bad leader, it was because you didn't care about people enough, you were lazy and didn't work hard enough, or you were egomaniacal and just concerned about power, right? Those were the bad leaders in my mind, right? They were selfish people, only cared about themselves and didn't work hard. If you cared about people, all you had to have is a good heart and you could be a good leader, was kind of the simplified version of of my perspective.
Yeah.
And then as I went through my work at law, when I went to law school and became a Dean's Fellow and worked in higher education, and then when I went to the Marine Corps as a Marine Corps officer, which I always like to call kind of my my graduate school training for leadership. One of the interesting things that I saw was a bunch of leaders who cared about people, who worked hard, and were still suffering. And
Mm.
most of them were suffering in silence. And it really shocked me, because I didn't realize that that was the case. I thought that the people were suffering. I didn't realize that the people were suffering and the leaders were suffering.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so once I saw that, and I saw that I had an aptitude for learning and for doing, being in leadership roles, and I picked it up and I was able to do it. I commanded a company of about 380 Marines and sailors while I was in the Marine Corps, and was blessed enough to be awarded the Navy Marine Corps Commendation Medal for my leadership with that company. Um, one of the interesting things for me was, now I realized that there were so many people suffering. I felt a need to do something, because I not only could do it, but I could also teach. And so that's really how the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group was founded. It was me realizing that I could actually help not only the people that I was trying to help from the beginning, but I could also help the leaders. And if I can touch more leaders, they can touch more people, and I can have an even greater impact in the world.
Oh my goodness. Can I first just say thank you for your service? So honored to have you kind of sharing all of the things today. But what a profound moment for you, though, to realize, like, to really truly be able to identify what the need or the gap was, and
Mm-hmm.
then to be able to say, hey, wait a minute, I can actually like make a difference here.
Yeah.
So kudos and congratulations to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
tell
it was.
me a little bit
Oh,
more.
go ahead.
First of all, I love what you said about you manage things and you lead people. That is incredibly true. Can you talk a little bit more about that, though? Because it is one thing that I hear a lot of my clients and a lot of the community talking about is there's a profound difference between leading and managing. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit more? What is the difference, and what skill sets are needed in both sides?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's one that a lot of people struggle with, because the funny thing about it, our journey to becoming leaders actually prepares us to be great managers. We only learn to really lead one person, and that's us. And we don't really lead us; we manage us, right? We
Mhm.
manage all of the things that keep us from being successful. We manage all of the distractions, all of the things that keep us from accomplishing the job. And so, all the way along the journey, becoming a professional, you get really good at a couple of things. Number one, you get really good at figuring out what other people want, right? From elementary school to middle school to high school to college to your first job, to even when you're an entrepreneur and in charge of your own thing, you're still figuring out what your customers want. It's not really about what you want, right? And so we
Mhm.
get really good at understanding what other people want, and we get really good at managing our time around those requests, around those priorities. And so we get really good at figuring out how to squeeze ourselves out so that we can be the go-to person, so that we can be the accomplisher, the doer, the person who is capable and is dependable when called upon, right?
Mm, mhm.
Now, the funny thing about that, excuse me, is that those are not the skills that you need as a leader, even though those are the skills that you need to recognize in your people as a leader, because
Yes.
those are the skills that are going to help them to be good professionals. But as a leader, the skills that we need have to do not with our doing, but have to do with our ability to help them do.
Yes.
And that's what so many people struggle with. I remember I was speaking with a accounting firm at their annual convention just here last week, and one of the interesting things about the talk that I do is called engaging leadership, and the subline or the AKA of that talk is leadership is broken, right?
Mm, yeah.
And what we were talking about was the fact that so many of us have never learned the skills of pulling out greatness from other people, of encouraging greatness, of seeing people and holding them accountable in a way that is not punishing or kind of gatekeeping and saying, you're not good enough, right? You shall not pass. That's not leadership, right? Leadership is actually being a guide, is walking alongside of people and helping them to see things that they can't see and helping them to overcome obstacles that they can't overcome. But it requires a different skill set. It requires a different mindset, and it requires a different temperament. And
Yes.
that's what so many of us kind of miss. And so many people are struggling with because they're trying to do what they think was done to them. But one of my favorite quotes is from the Tao Te Ching. And it's basically Lao Tzu says it this way when he's talking about leaders. He says, the greatest leaders, the people barely know they exist. When their task is accomplished, when their job is done, the people say, we did it ourselves.
That's amazing.
Right. And I've always loved that quote. When I was a teacher, I used to have it up on my classroom wall and everything. And on first blush, it's awesome in and of itself. But there's a
Yeah.
deeper meaning to that quote that most times we miss, and that I missed for probably the first 10 or 15 years that I had been quoting that quote.
Mm-hmm.
And the deeper meaning that we miss is when you have a great leader, AKA when you're trying to emulate your great leaders that you've had in the past, the problem that you're going to run into that you're not even going to realize you have is that you have no idea what they were doing, because the
Mm,
greatest leaders, we barely recognize when they're doing the leading. The greatest leaders, we think we did it ourselves.
that is so, oh my goodness. Like I missed that piece of it too. And when you first said the quote, I thought that is profound. Like that's an amazing, observation and an amazing, way to kind of pull all of that together into one statement. But that's very true. And so how do you emulate something if you don't know the skills and the things? But here's also the other thing, in my opinion too, Robert, is when we try to replicate a leader or a manager, we also don't know all the things that they did behind the scenes before they even got to the point that they are right now, right? Like what was the
Exactly.
things they learned, what was the experiences that they went through to be able to lead you the way that they are right now, right? And
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh,
tell my team all the time, I'm always like, here's the deal. I'm guiding you through the minefield. No, just know that I already blew my legs off. That's why I can guide you through the minefield. Don't think that I just got over here and I made it, unscathed. That's not it. I know that there's a mine there because I stepped on it.
yes.
Right. And and
Yes.
and most leaders struggle with that level of humility, that level of vulnerability, because we're taught and right, we're taught authority, we're taught title, we're taught power dynamics.
Yes.
We are not taught the power of connection,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And connection is where influence comes from, but we're not taught that.
Yes, I agree. But I
And so,
will say,
yeah.
Robert, do you agree that I think I'm starting to see a shift to that though? It's not I don't think we're at the point where it needs to be. Like I think we still have a lot of learning and
Mhm.
growing to
Mhm.
do, but there does seem to be this shift from authority and dictator to empathy and connection and
Yeah.
knowing and understanding the people that you're leading.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's an intellectual shift, right?
Yeah.
So now we're getting to the point where everybody knows that you're supposed to be connecting, that you're supposed to be patient, that you're supposed to be doing, right? We understand it academically and intellectually.
Mhm.
Tell my clients all the time, right? You've read the same books that I've read, right? We've all read Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. We've all read, Dare to Lead by Brene Brown, right? We've gone through the list, right?
Mhm.
Uh, Start with Why by Simon Sinek. Everybody knows what the good leader kind of book club is, right? The problem, and we've all seen the same TED Talks and been to a lot of the same, conferences. But the issue is, now that we know what we should be doing, why is it so hard to do it? Why are we
Mm,
struggling to do what we know that we should be doing? And that's the part that I really try to help leaders with, because again, there's this feeling that we should know better. We should be better. And one of my favorite quotes is by the great Dr. Maya Angelou, the late great Dr. Maya Angelou. And she used to say, give yourself grace for what you didn't know when you didn't know it.
Yes.
When you know better, do better. And
Yes.
so much of what I try to do is hold that space for leaders to make that transformation. Because just like you said, the shift is beginning to happen, but now it's brought with it a whole new problem. And that problem is, how do I find the time to do good leadership?
Yeah. I could not agree more. And I love that you talked about should, right? Because I just made a post here recently about we need to stop shoulding ourselves, right?
That
We
part.
do it all the time, right? Well, I should have known better. I should have communicated more clearly. I should. But the thing,
Yeah.
I mean, Maya Angelou was so beautiful in her words because the experience and the knowledge that we have today is what we're basing our conversation or our actions on, right?
Yeah.
But what we know tomorrow or 6 months from now, we don't have that knowledge right now. And so
Mhm.
having grace that, sometimes we look back at things and we're like, I should have done things differently.
Yeah.
I should have, but you didn't know the things that you know today, right? So
Mhm.
there is grace that is needed, that you're going to lead differently today than you did 6 months ago. And you're
Yeah.
also going to lead differently and have different communication 6 months from now. So always looking back and shooting ourselves
Yeah.
is actually hurting us, not helping us, right? Because
Exactly.
what I encourage my clients to do is look back and learn, but don't live there and nor beat yourself up there,
Yeah.
right?
And something that I noticed about you and something I always have admired about you is how well you hold space for people, and not
Oh,
just hold space for them, but see the awesomeness that's within them. And I wanted to ask you kind of where did that come from? Where did you learn that? When did that kind of when did was is that some where you've always been? Was there a change in life that happened where you started seeing people differently? How did that come to be?
well, I love how you turn the chair around here. So, I don't know if it was necessarily something that I consciously like just, became aware of, but I think I've always known that first of all, Robert, I had this knack for like people will walk up to me and tell me their whole life stories, even if I've met them in like the first 30 seconds that I've met them, right?
Mhm.
And there's a comfort level, and I think that's a God-given natural
Mhm.
ability that I have. I don't think that that's anything I learned. I think that came from God, and so having that, like I just learned to listen twice as much as I talk. I love that quote
Mm.
that you have two ears and one mouth for a reason.
There
Um,
we go.
so I just really loved to start listening to people. And then if there was wisdom or if there was, an experience that I have had, sharing that and offering that space to them to let you know, like, I'm connecting with you, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that say when someone else tells you their story, it's because they're trying to compete with you. And I really kind of want to change the narrative on that sometimes too, because like when I do that, when I'm sharing, I'm not sharing it with you to compete with you. I'm actually sharing to let you know, hey, I connect with you.
Yes.
Understand what you're saying here. My experience might have been slightly different than yours because we don't all go through the exact same experiences, but I
Mhm.
do understand because I've
Yeah.
had something similar happen. And I want to tell you that so that you know that I'm not just like telling you something out of the blue.
Yeah.
I'm sharing because I want to connect with you. I want you to know that I've had a similar experience. And here's what I learned from that. Here's what I hope maybe you can take away that I wish I would have known when I went through that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think, creating spaces is really truly about the other person. And I really intentionally go into conversations knowing that I want to know them. I want to connect with them. And if there is a wisdom of nugget or experience or something that I can share, that I want to do that. But my intention really truly is to know you and connect with you. And I
Yeah.
think when you come with that intentionality, creating that space becomes natural.
Yeah. No, I
And
love it. And I love watching you do it because it's one of those things for me. First of all, I agree 100% with everything that you said. And one of the coolest things being around you and being able to be in the spaces that we've been in and see you do it, see it in person. Right. And I don't know if you've had this experience before, but sometimes stuff works for you and you think that like maybe it's just me. Maybe I intellectually am not articulating this the way that I want. But when I watch you and I'm like, yes, that's the thing. See, connection. And the experience that you get when I can sit back in a room and watch you connect people and watch how people are drawn to that energy. Cause that's exactly, at least my personal feeling watching it, is that you do that. You hold space for people, you see them and they feel seen, they feel heard, and they're drawn to that. And it's been so confirmational for me watching you do it and being in spaces with you, because again, right, it's what I try to do. It's what I write about. It's what I talk about. But it's one of those types of things where it's so helpful to see it from an external point of view, where it's like, yes, somebody else gets it, right? It's not just me. I'm not just kind of in this world by myself making stuff up.
Well, you were completely validated, my friend. And thank you for that, because I think sometimes we don't realize the impact that we're making, or we don't realize, and this is so true of leadership too, though. I never knew you were watching me to gain that experience, to learn from me. It's not something I was sitting down and teaching you, but as leaders, everything we do, people are watching us, and they're not even just learning from us in our leadership. They're listening to our communication styles, the words that we use or don't use. They're watching our body language. They're listening to the tone of our voice. I mean, every single thing we are doing is being observed. And so I think really having a lot of self-awareness in meetings and conversations is so important to leadership. I also want to touch on something else you said earlier too, that you don't have to have a title to be a leader, right? But I will tell you, I think one of the biggest qualities that I have seen in leaders is that they often identify other leaders before they even identify themselves as a leader.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. For us at Legacy, one of the things, my kind of definition of leadership is actually facilitating the manifestation of greatness in others. I believe that leadership is all about how you bring out, how you help to come to birth the greatness that exists in other people. And the first prerequisite that's necessary, therefore, is that you see the greatness that is within other people, so that you can help and so that you can remove obstacles and be a partner in that process. And so, to your point, I think that one of the things that happens oftentimes with leaders or with people who don't have titles is that they don't think that they can influence. They don't think that they can lead, quote unquote, because they think that it's a power dynamic.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that I want people to take away from if you take anything away from hearing me talk about leadership, the one thing that I want you to hear is, if you have the ability to communicate with someone, you have the ability to lead someone.
Yes.
Because leadership is all about influence. It's all about your ability to help this other person see the world differently, operate in the world differently, and operate in the world in such a way that they're walking more in alignment with their God-given purpose, with their talents, with their abilities, with their greatness. And if you can do that, you can be a janitor, you can be the president. If you can do that with people, you will be a leader, because you will help them to manifest their greatness, to manifest their divine purpose, to be the person that they're supposed to be.
Oh, man, that was amazing. Like that I don't know a better way to kind of wrap up our conversation, because that was beautiful, Robert. And I just want to reiterate it again. You don't have to have a title to be a leader. You also are more than a leader just in an organization. You're a leader at home. You're a leader in your community. Like, leadership is so much more than just being in a business. And it is such a servant role, not a self,
Yeah.
Again,
the greatest leaders, people barely know they exist.
I love that. Oh, friend, thank you so much. I knew this was going to be a great conversation, and I'm so excited that we had it. Listen, I love to end our conversations with 3 rapid fire questions. And so I'd love to ask you, for those who may not have heard this before. So honor, empower, and inspire mean a lot to me. Honor is about empowering women of a past generation. Empower is about a current generation, and inspire is about a future generation. So Robert, I would love to ask, who is a woman of a past generation that you would love to honor?
Well, awesome. So I'm gonna have to break the rule, and I'm gonna have to do two, only because there's two sayings that always that kind of guide me, and they come from one, my mother, who has said something super profound, which is, she would always say to me when I was younger, she still says it now, but not as often, but she would say, "Baby, there's enough you don't know to make a whole new world." Right? And generally I would be frustrated because it was like she was trying to tell me that I wasn't as smart as I thought I was, and I was like, "Yes, I am." But as I've gotten older, I realized how profound that statement is. And it actually is a more freeing statement because it helps me to realize that I don't know everything. I'm not supposed to know everything. And that goes back to the other person. And we talked about this quote earlier, Dr. Maya Angelou, and that quote that helped me really to overcome perfectionism, helped me to have grace for myself, helped me to give myself space to grow into who I believe God is preparing me to be. And that was the quote that we talked about earlier, where you have to give yourself grace for what you didn't know when you didn't know it. Right. So there's enough that I don't know to make a whole new world. And I've got to give myself grace for that fact. Those things have helped me tremendously to become the person that I am, and to become to be able to be a leader who holds space for other people to make those transformations. So those are the two people that I would love to honor.
I love that. And Robert, I don't usually do this, but for some reason I feel this calling to say this out loud to somebody, because somebody needs to hear this. Whether you have been in your leadership role for 2 months or 2 years or 20 years, I want you to know that there are things that you are going to bring to the table, conversations, communication styles, experiences, knowledge, wisdom, whatever it may be, that you will gain from those that are around you, but you also have so much to contribute to. So whether you're new in your journey or you've been in your journey for a long time, please know that we all have something to contribute. And that comes along with what you were saying, that what I know today it's going to be different 6 months from now and 6 years from now.
Yeah.
So we all have something really powerful that we can contribute. So thank you for that quote. I absolutely love Maya Angelou. She's one of my favorite. Oh, love her.
Yes.
And so I want to ask you about empower. Who is a woman of a current generation, a business owner or someone who's in leadership today, that either empowers you to absolutely be your best self, or that you hope to empower to be her best?
Okay. So one of the people that I will say in this current generation that is kind of my maven is the great Brene Brown.
Love her.
There's the first book that I read from her was one of the books that helped me through a period of time when I was going through a lot of perfectionism, and it was aptly titled The Gifts of Imperfection. And there was so much that I learned in that book. One of the key things that I learned was about kind of the needy versus the giver mentality, and how I wasn't ever allowed or allowing myself to receive from others because there was a subconscious understanding that receiving was because of something that you hadn't done properly, because you hadn't met the mark, because you hadn't lived up to the standard, because you had been lazy, because of whatever. And that reframing that she was able to give in that book was really helpful for me. I recommend Brene Brown books to anybody that that is looking to be a better leader and to understand kind of the human condition. And so with the work that she does, I love to shout her out all the time because she's still doing amazing things.
She is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I don't know if you watched her Netflix, documentary.
Oh, yes.
Woo, that just touched me. She's incredible. Love her.
Yes. We can have a whole other conversation about how to do empathy with, but we ain't got time for that right
now. We could probably have about 30 conversations on her. What about a woman that you, of a future generation, that you hope to inspire?
Yeah. I think if I was to answer that question honestly, that woman would be my daughter. And shout out to Nadia. She is a senior this year. She's graduating and she's getting ready to go to college to be a worship pastor. But one of the things, she's awesome. She sings. She is on fire for God, and just the different facets and things that she has available to her, I'm always in awe of, because I wish that she's 20 years ahead of where I was when I was graduating high school, all those things. So I'm really proud of her. And I think my goal, like what I hope, and what for both of my children, and my wife and I both have this kind of desire for our children, that they can see further, that they can do more, right? You and I have talked about this a lot. Legacy means a lot to me as a word, and it means not big shoes to fill. It means big shoulders to stand on. There's a quote by Isaac Newton where he says, if I've seen further than others, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. And my goal is to be those broad shoulders for my daughter, to see further and do more, and to know that she can do anything. And so throughout her entire life, and I can hope that it continues as we go forward, that I can just be that beacon for her, that battery in her back, pumping her up, believing that she can do whatever she can put her mind to and whatever God calls her to do.
Oh, well, with you as a mentor and a guide for her, friend, I have absolutely no doubt that she will do amazing things. Robert, thank you again. This was an incredible conversation. And there are about 100 nuggets that I can just think back on our conversation and know that people are going to get out of this. So thank you for being here today. I so appreciate it.
It is my great pleasure, my friend. I would love to continue our conversations. Come back at any time you have but to ask. And I can't wait till the next time we get to see each other in person.
Me too. It's always so much fun spending time with you. I hope you all enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to see you again next week. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of ConvHERsations with Kristie. I hope you're walking away with a few nuggets of inspiration, maybe a new perspective, or just a reminder that you're not alone in your leadership journey. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, drop us a comment, or tag us with your favorite takeaway. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep leading with heart, and keep building the kind of life and leadership that feels true to you. I'll see you in the next ConvHERsation.